Thanks for coming to watch this video from Carolina Varsity. We are going over the 2016 North Carolina High School Football State Championships, and now we're in the 3A. And this game will be played Saturday, this December 17th. The game will be played at 11:05 a.m., and we've got Rocky Mount playing in South Point.
The Red Raiders from the West will be going up against, with an 11-4 record, will be going up the Griffins from Rocky Mount with a 13-2 record. And Dave, this is the only game in the state championship finals this year that's a rematch of last year. Both of these teams met last year. As a matter of fact, it was the very first game played at Carolina on Friday night last year, and it went to overtime. And Rocky Mount won in overtime. Both teams got back here again. South Point, of course, their mantra all year long was 3 more because they lost by 3 points.
Right. And
Rocky Mount's wanting to repeat. So it should be a good football game. Both teams look pretty equal on paper. South Point has scored 576 points this year for a 34-point per game average. Rocky Mount has scored 485 points this year for a 28-point average, so a little advantage there for South Point. South Point's allowed only 133 points this year. Rocky Mount's allowed 274 points this year. Both teams are pretty equal on how many yards they gain per game as well. South Point coming in at 322. Rocky Mount coming in with 338. South Point gets 247 yards rushing, 74 yards passing. Rocky Mount gets a little bit more rushing, 266, a little bit less passing, 72 yards. Anyway, this ought to be a pretty exciting game. Rocky Mount and South Point they pretty much do the same thing. They're both of them look to be power run offenses. They pass only when they have to. Last year in the state championship, their quarterback, his name was Wright. He had only run like a dozen times all year, and he had like 40, 50 yards rushing. He got nearly 150 yards rushing last year against South Point, and because they could not contain him in the backfield, he'd drop back to pass. South Point did take away the run game last year, forced him to pass. And whenever we went back to pass, South Point was not. They were not able to contain him, so he wound up scrambling for over 100 yards that game. So he became the rushing attack that game that last year. South Point has been really awesome against the rush this year, and the most improved aspect of their defense, though, has been their pass defense. I don't know how many sacks. I think they've got 40-some sacks this year, and I don't know how many tackles for loss, but I know that they've got 40-some sacks this year. I don't know what Rocky Mount's individual stats are for things like that on defense. But anyway, it should be a pretty good ball game. I reckon probably most people are going to favor Rocky Mount. One advantage Rocky Mount does have, when you look at the numbers, South Point's got a little bit of a number advantage, less than a touchdown. When you look at something else, though, Rocky Mount's got a pretty good size edge, and that's the strength of their schedule. Rocky Mount's strength of schedule was rated number 1 in 3A this year, whereas South Point's rated around 40. So, but also look at how the teams have advanced. Now, I think South Point is probably the most improved team in the state now as to where they started out the first of the year.
I'd agree with that.
South Point started out 2 wins, 4 losses. And in the 4 losses, they were competitive on all the 4 losses except for the loss to Shelby. Shelby cleaned their clock. And in the last, in the last 9 games, South Point's only allowed 3 points per game to opposition. And last week they shut down Reedsville. They didn't even have, they had 118 total yards for the game. That's not counting kickoff returns. They had almost 100 yards, but South Point kicked off to them 6 times. So I don't know what Rocky Mount's what do they call that stat? It's not utility yards, but
total all-purpose yards.
All-purpose yards. I don't know what their all-purpose yards is because Max Preps, whenever they list all-purpose yards, they just combine rushing and passing. So, and that's not their all-purpose yards at all. All-purpose yards are like kickoff returns, interception returns, fumble returns. And South Point, I don't know what their exact numbers are, but I think they have around 1,300 yards this year in returns. Most of them being interceptions and fumble returns. So South Point is effective at turning the other team over. If South Point can shut down their running game, their rushing game this year, like they did last year, the way that South Point's defense has been playing lately, that to me that plays into South Point's hand defensively because they've been very, very effective against the pass this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Rocky Mount, it's probably pretty much going to be the same way for them. South Point's a little bit better at passing, only 2 yards per game, but last year South Point couldn't pass a lick. So that part of the game this year is going to be equaled out. So I don't know. Rocky Mounts they face good competition. They've got 2 losses. South Point's got 4. And so, but in the playoffs, in the 4 games that South Point's played, they went up against 3 teams that combined had only 3 losses.
Right.
And that's pretty good competition. So I'm going to go with the team in the West this year. I'm going to go with South Point by a touchdown or less.
Yeah, you asked about or was wondering what the number of tackles for loss were. And if the numbers are accurate, South Point's had 77 tackles for loss. So that's if these numbers are accurate. I kind of like, so there's 2 things here going for me. One, I kind of like the role that South Point's gotten on. And it looks like a good role. And, when things start rolling and working, it's kind of hard to bet against that. But Rocky Mount is a good team. They played a tough schedule. They are from last year, and you got to imagine they may not be the team they were last year, but they may have developed into that kind of team. So I think it's going to be a real tough ball game. Could be a very, very close ball game.
South Point, I think, is peaking at the right time. I mean, you want to peak, whenever you play the big games.
Right.
And like you said, they're on a roll. Now, and I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever by what I'm about to say, but Rocky Mount really is lucky to be playing this weekend.
Right.
Because they should have lost last weekend to Havelock.
Mm-hmm.
A miraculous 99-yard play with less than 30 seconds to play, put them where they're at.
Exactly.
But still, they did it.
They did
it.
It's football.
It's football, right. So to say that they shouldn't be playing is maybe not accurate.
Right.
Okay. They should be playing because they won. But maybe it would be more appropriate to say they're a little bit fortunate to be playing this weekend. So, and with, I took that into consideration too in making a pick here because really they're fortunate to even be playing this kind of weekend. But even in that, even had the game ended like it was, I think it was only, they was only, I think it was 14-7 before they scored that touchdown to tie it up, going overtime and eventually win. So, and they held a good team, Havelock, to only 14 points.
Right.
And so that's a plus to me as far as I'm concerned. That's a plus in their favor. But I'm still going to go with the Red Raiders.
I hear you. All right, so we should have a good ball game, I think, this Saturday. Hopefully the conditions are great, and we'll see who brings either the best defense or the best offense to the ball game. If you got any comments, we'd love to hear from you. Come to Carolina Varsity and tell us about them. Thanks for watching.